Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. I will say the same thing about the lights. It's amazing. I'm part of the strategy group within Accenture Operations. We deliver business process and infrastructure services to a lot of clients, and through that we feel very much an integral part of more than 1,200 shared service organizations around the world. It's my first visit to Poznan. It was fantastic walking around yesterday evening, seeing some of the sites. I have to say, before I came here, the only thing I knew about Poznan was the goal celebration. You'll be very pleased to know that I'm not going to demonstrate that today. Instead, what I'm going to talk about are the trends that we've seen in our business, in all of your businesses, over the last few years, talk about what we've been doing about those trends, and share with you the journey. I hope, as I do that, you're really going to, I suppose, sense how it can be applied to you. So, I'm sure, if I go back to the previous slide, you're all seeing the change. You've heard a lot about the change so far this morning. And we characterize what we've been seeing over the last few years in themes of consumerism as well as digital and data disruption. And what we've observed about consumerism is it's not simply the end customers of your business that really want to embrace that consumerism. It's every part of your business. It's your employees, it's your suppliers, it's anyone who makes contact with your business. And we need to embrace that all the way through, even in the shared service organizations. We've heard a lot about digital disruptions. There were some great examples earlier of the macro disruptions, but we're also seeing a lot of micro disruptions. Every single sub-process in our businesses are being impacted by disruptive technologies, disruptive thinking. And we see that as a really good thing to embrace that into the future. We also heard about data. The joy of data is there's never been so much, but there's never been so much processing power to store and deal with that data. And you really should embrace it. And you know, one of the early examples we saw of all of these trends coming through, we do a lot of work in HR services, and a number of our clients had chosen to adopt Workday, a disruptive technology born in the cloud. That had actually changed the way in which a lot of organizations, a lot of people interact with their HR departments. And we coupled that with the consumerism, where employees wanted to be treated like consumers. And we've now merged together, for a number of our clients, Workday with another disruptive technology, ServiceNow, perhaps more commonly known as an IT ticket handler. It turns out that they had an interest in adapting some of their technologies to work in business process. So we've now put those two disruptive platforms together and created an employee service portal that allows employees to treat their employment as if they were a consumer. So they've become much more in charge of the direction they're moving in. So these trends have really placed new demands on businesses, new demands on the operating models that we in this room are delivering for our, I suppose, our bosses, our clients. You know, it used to be, in the good old days, all you had to worry about was cost, efficiency, and productivity. Those things are necessary, but they're no longer sufficient. Increasingly now, people are looking to shared service departments, service providers, to provide them that intelligent insight that will help them grow their top line. They're also really expecting us to embrace this new wave of platforms coming through to really dramatically improve the situation. And you know, an example, they also want us to adapt a lot, or be a lot more flexible in the way we approach our business. I remember a number of years ago being in a situation with a client where we were about to enter into an agreement with them, and it was in principle, a 5-year agreement. And we said, okay, so at this point, we'd like to see your 5-year business plan. And they stared at their feet, and they sort of said, well, we're not sure that we can give you a 5-year business plan with certainty. And at that point, that just really moved us into a discussion where what they were looking for in the future was flexibility. They wanted us to be able to ramp up and ramp down people to match their business volumes. If they took on a company through acquisition, they wanted to know that quickly. If they took on a divestiture, they wanted to be able to react to that quickly. So that really changed the way that things were moving. And adding those trends and those demands together really got us starting to think about what is the future. And we coined, along with our colleagues in HFS research, we coined the term of intelligent operations. And it's where, in the future, we'll bring together people, human ingenuity, but we'll also put alongside of that interpretation of data, interrogation of data, and of course embracing all forms of technology to eliminate and automate work as much as possible. So what does intelligent operations mean? I've described some of the outlines of there. We'd had this notion, so we worked with HFS. We sponsored a study that they conducted. They went out into the marketplace and they spoke to more than 460 buyers and users of business process and infrastructure services, IT services around the world. And one of the things that they came back with, and by the way, you can read this report on our website. You can read it also on the HFS research website. It's a great report. But it reinforced that the world was wanting to move beyond just labor arbitrage. They were looking for more things out of that. They were looking for help with top-line growth. And I think one of the panelists was observing that here in Poland, you know, the cost structures are moving closer and closer to being aligned with Western Europe. Well, the joy is that we've now got to a point in the world where we need to go beyond labor arbitrage anyway to look for that extra value. And we saw through that research 5 essentials really shining through. And these 5 essentials, these are the attributes that you need to have. Each one of them makes a positive contribution, but the key is to bring them together and harness them together. So innovative talent is the first one to bring out. You know, it turns out that the old style of doing innovation, you know, every first Wednesday of the quarter just isn't sufficient. Because of this disruption at both the macro and the micro level, you need to have that culture of innovation. So bringing innovative talent into your organizations, either directly through recruitment or by partnership, is becoming key. All that data that's coming through needs to be assembled through a backbone, a data-driven backbone, because the future is intelligent operations. That intelligence depends upon interpreting the data that you've all got and can get access to. Embracing the cloud. The cloud is a really important thing, not least because a lot of these new data backbone technologies, a lot of the platforms are born in the cloud. And one of the very first things they thought through was how to connect all these things. So embracing the cloud is really important. Applied intelligence. So really thinking through what are the business problems I'm trying to solve. How can I use the data that I've got now, or the data I can get access to solve those business problems? That's another key attribute. And the last one is really getting involved in an ecosystem with the technology partners. Again, that may be difficult in a smaller organization, and teaming with an organization that has those relationships would be really important. The time for action is now. We've heard again this morning about the future coming. We believe the future is now. We've been making changes ourselves with our 1,200 plus clients over the last 3 to 4 years. And I really urge you to do that. And there's several really good reasons for taking the action now. I think the first is that data is not going to get any simpler. It's only going to get more complex. So the sooner you start getting all those structured and semi-structured data sources pulled together, I think we found in the survey that something like 50 to 90% of data in most organizations is unstructured. Well, capturing now and learning how to use that and interrogate that now is important. I think the second factor, as we see the squeeze on profits in organizations, one of the first things that's also being squeezed is investment, internal investment. So you may have to go on a slightly slower path, but start now, get that investment. And I think the third thing, and where I would slightly disagree with one of the earlier comments, I think artificial intelligence is here. I think it is something that's going to impact our lives and our children's lives. We don't need to wait for our grandchildren, but we need to positively embrace it. And again, starting now and recognizing that the key power in artificial intelligence is that it learns, I think do that. I would also recommend a book, a great book, written by a couple of colleagues of mine, Paul Doherty and James Wilson. It's called Human Plus Machine. And it is absolutely brilliant. It removes all the fear factors and embraces the positivity of artificial intelligence. But beware, technology alone is not the magic bullet. It's a massively key enabler, but what I would urge you to do is to think, what are the business problems I'm trying to solve? What are the compliance issues I'm trying to solve? What are the challenges in customer relationships and customer growth that I'm trying to challenge? Then go all the way back through the processes. Where do I need to change my processes? And then finally, use technology as the enabler. So let me talk about the Accenture story and what we've been doing in the last few years. And essentially, it's been cannibalizing our business with our clients, but recognizing that these changes were coming is anticipating some of those changes. So that today, in our global organization, we have 138,000 people. Alongside them, we have 38,000 robots. And alongside all of that, we have 96 artificial intelligence advisors. And that really is a good example of human plus machine working alongside each other to really change the way things work. At the beginning of our journey, we were pretty much a 100% people-based business. It was people executing transactions. As we've introduced the technology to eliminate those transactions or deal with the transactions directly, we've massively increased the capacity of our people to do work, and they've engaged higher order work, and that has also helped them, I suppose, have a better experience from an employee satisfaction basis. And we've learned some lessons, and I want to just talk to you about some of the things that we've learned along that journey. The first of those is that a lot of automation projects fail. Fail in the sense that they don't deliver their original objectives. And the reason they tend to fail is that people pick parts of process to do a pilot on or a proof of concept, and they achieve some results, but when they try and move it to other parts of the business, it doesn't scale up. And that's a real problem. And what we would advocate is look at the entire process, look at it end to end, because it is different. And if you are trying to automate just parts of it, what you may find is that you've simply automated something that shouldn't even exist, that should eliminate. And that was our second learning, is go back and challenge the original boundaries that you've been operating to. A lot of us in shared services and service provision, have arranged a piece of work many years ago, and we had a dividing line between Part A and Part B and Part C of the organization. It turns out, in many cases, there was nothing magical or definite about those boundaries, and you really do need to change some of those boundaries. I think the third thing I'll talk about is reskilling and retraining. 38,000 robots in Accenture, that displaced more than 40,000 roles. The great thing is we didn't lose any of those people simply because their role was automated. We anticipated that, we reskilled them, we retrained them so that they can move on to things like casework. For many of our clients, it's enabled them to give us work that was permanently in a queue, so deep investigation of case studies in tax or whatever. And that's a really important thing to do. And I think the final thing I will say on that is have patience. It has been a 3 to 4 year journey for us. I would say the first year was pretty frustrating. We learned as we went. But it's really important to lay down that infrastructure. And if you do, then what we sincerely believe is that by embracing intelligent operations, by embracing the future now, you will be able to achieve these kinds of superior outcome. It's been a pleasure to talk to you today. If you do want to catch me in the rest of the conference and ask me questions, please do. I would encourage you to read the report on the Accenture or HFS research websites. And if you want to get in touch with me after the conference, I'm sure ABSL have got my details. Accenture Poland have also got my details. Thank you very much.